Hey, welcome to this tutorial, and this is going to be a tutorial where I show you how to make an awesome quiz app. So if you're thinking about designing or making a quiz app for the App Store, or just want to know how to make a quiz app, or just want to learn some more Swift programming, this is an awesome tutorial for you. Don't be intimidated by the length of this video. I think 22 minutes. This is just because I explain everything in detail, so it's not very complex. It's just that I take my time to explain this stuff. So if this is something you want to know how to do, just keep watching this video and I will show you how. So let's start a new xCode project, make it a single view application, and I'm just going to call it quiz app. Make sure that the language is set to Swift and then click Next. I'm just going to save it on my desktop and I'm going to start with laying out the main storyboard. So that's the first step that we're going to take here so that we have that done and we can move on to the code. So let's drag in some buttons and I'm going to have 3 answer alternatives. So how my app is going to work is there's going to be a label with a question and then the user is going to be presented with 3 alternatives. One of them is of course correct. When the user answers, it jumps ahead to the next question until there aren't any questions left. So I'm just going to make a large button like that. Make sure that it's wide so it can fit all the text. And then I'm going to have a blue background and some white text, just like that. And I'm going to make it a bit taller like that, and I'm going to have 3 of them so that we're able to display our 3 alternatives. Let's see, let's make it like, let's make it a bit pretty like that. And then we're going to have the label that's going to display our question. So this is going to be the one that shares our well thought, well-made question with the user. So let's see, we're just going to center that, and now we really have everything that we need in our storyboard. At the end of the video, I might show you some extensions and we will jump back to this, but right now this is all we need. Then we're going to drag in the label that's going to display our question. Just call it label or LBL. Short for label, and then we're going to import the button. Now we are only going to import one button, and I'm just going to call it action. Make it an action, connect it up, and as you will see, all we need to do is we just need to drag the other buttons in so that we connect every single button up to the same function. Now, in order for us to do this, or this to be an effective strategy, I'm going to give each of them a different tag. So the first button is going to have the tag 1, the second one is going to have tag 2, and the third one is going to have a tag 4, no, just joking, also a 3. So here we are all set up, so now I'm just going to jump over to the view controller, and I'm going to start creating some content, some juicy content for our user. I'm just going to create an array that's going to keep our questions, and the first question is going to be let's see, favorite pet. I'm just going to make it a quick little short question. Of course this is pretty objective, but for this quiz app it's going to be not objective at all. Favorite pet, only one right answer to that. Favorite color, okay, these are not good questions, but you can make any questions you like. And then where was I born? Question mark. Okay, awesome questions. Then I'm going to create some answers that's going to keep my answers. Now make sure that so this array is going to contain an array. This array is going to contain multiple arrays that contain strings. So make sure that when you create one of these arrays that the right answer is at the first place. So favorite pet, I'm just going to say dog. If there's any cat lovers, sorry, but for me, my favorite pet is a dog. Then I'm going to say cat. Then I'm going to say bird. So that third, bird. So that's the three alternatives, and the right answer is always the first one. Then I'm going to create alternatives for the second question. I'm going to say blue, which is the right question. Then I'm going to say black, and I'm going to say green. And then for the last question, I'm going to say where was I born? Was I born? Don't know. Let's say Tokyo, not right, but awesome city, probably. Never been there. New York, and how do you spell it? Tennessee, something like that. So that's our answer alternatives. As you can see, just keep this in mind. The first one is going to be the right answer. Now I'm also going to create some variables that we're going to need longer down the road. I've already made this app, so I know that we need them. So we're just going to create them right away, and I will explain why we need them later on. And at the end of this video, I'm going to go everything through once again, just to make everything clear. So if there's something you don't understand, don't worry, just keep going along, and I will at the end of the video explain everything once again. So let's see, we're going to need one variable that keeps track of our current questions. So it's going to go through each question one by one, and this variable is going to keep track of at which question we're currently at. So we're just going to say var, current question, and the first one is going to be 0. Then we're going to create another variable that says right answer placement. It's going to be 0. This variable is going to keep track of where our right answer is located. So as you can see, we have 3 buttons, and this variable is going to keep track of whether that answer is at this button, or this button, so that we can compare the user's input with the right answer. So that's also a variable that we're going to need. Now we're going to create the function that displays new question. So every time we want a new question, we call this function. And therefore, I am going to call this function new question. Obviously enough. Let's see, let's create this. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the text of the label equal to questions dot current question. So as you can see here, we start at 0, and then we're going to go through the questions. Right now we're at the first question, so we're just going to write current question. Then we're going to generate a random place for this one, for this variable. So we're going to say right answer placement, let's see, is equal to, and this is how you generate a random number, a great thing to know how to do, arc for random uniform, that just find this one, and then write 3, let's see if it lets me, 3, and then outside +1, because we don't want 0, so we're just throwing in a +1. There's some, oh yeah, we have to make sure that this is a U in 32, because that's what we're going to get right here. Then we are also going to create a button. Why we are doing this, you're going to see longer down the code, but we're just going to need a button, and it's going to be UI button, and it's going to be UI button right there. And then we're also going to create a variable x that's going to be 0. And this one is 1, excuse me. But I'm going to explain what this x does in a minute. But right now, we're just going to create a for function, I in 1, 2, 3. So what this is going to do is it is going to go through each button. So first, it is going to go through this one time, which is going to set up the first button. Then it's going to go through it the second time, with e equal to 2, it's going to set up that button, and the last time is going to be equal to 3 and go through that button. So we're going through this one 3 times, and each time we set up a different button. So the first thing we do is we create a button. Now this might sound counterintuitive, but as you remember, we gave each button a tag. And in order for us to be able to access it as a button, we need to convert it to a button. So it is a button right now, but in order for us to be able to access it and use the things that are tied to a button in our code, we need to once again convert it to a button. So we're just going to say button is equal to, so this one, button is equal to view with tag, and with a tag equal to 1. So try to think about what we're doing here. If you need to, set it to pause, and then we're going to say as UI button. So we're accessing each one of these buttons and then converting it to a button so that we're able to use it as a button. Then we are going to check if E is equal to the right answer placement. So we're now going through each button, and if this button, let's say this one generated 2, so our right answer is going to be at button number 2. So if we get to button number 2, then we are going to give it the right answer. So then we are just going to say button.setTitle is going to be questions, let's say questions dot current question dot 0, because as you remember, we placed the right answer at place number 0, and it's going to be normal. Let's see, there we go, normal. And then if it's not, if we get to this button and the right answer isn't supposed to be right there, we are going to say else, and we are going to see, let's say, what's the problem here? Is there a problem here? Subscript is unavailable. Cannot subscript string with an int. Let's say, is there something wrong, or is it just joking with me? No, oh, I see. Sorry. Answers. I tried to access the questions, but of course it's the answers that we need to access the answers variable. Now, if it's not equal to the right placement, then we're just going to say button.setTitle, and the title is going to be answers dot, let's say answers dot current question, and now we're going to set it equal to x. So x is 1, and x is 1 because we don't want to access number 0, because then we get the right answer. We want to access this one first, and then this one when we get to the next button. So that's why we're then going to set x, when we have done that, x plus x equals 2. We could also say x plus 1, but I'm just going to set x is equal to 2. And then when we have set up everything, we're going to say current question is equal to 1. Sorry, plus equals 1. So we're just going to take current question and then plus 1. And then everything is set up. Now we're just going to have to display it, call this function, and we do that when the view did appear. Let's see, yep. Yada yada, because we don't want to do it when the view did load, because then we will try to work with the interface, and the interface might not be loaded yet then, and then we can get a crash. But view did appear, then we're only going to start changing the view when it has appeared. Excuse me, I'm just going to drink a bit so that my throat doesn't dry up. And here we're just going to call the function. So new question, there we go. Now we have set up everything, and now we also have to, of course, do something with the buttons each time we click it. So let's see how we do that. We check if the sender dot tag, so the tag of the button is equal to the right answer placement. So we're going to see if the button that the user clicks on carries the right answers. If it does, we are just going to right now just print right. But if it doesn't, we are just going to say print wrong. And we're going to really smear that up in the face of the user. So we're just going to have some exclamation marks there. Of course, the user isn't going to see the print stuff, but we have to write that out on the screen afterwards if you want to stick around for that also. That's going to be more of an extension to this app. If current question is not, let's see, and I'm going to explain in a second what I'm doing here. Questions that count. Let's see, then we are going to call new question. So what I'm doing right here is I'm testing if the current question is not equal to the length of this array. Because if this number right here extends beyond the length of this array, we are going to get an error because we're trying to call on an element that doesn't exist. So we're only going to set up a new question if we have more questions to go. So let's try to run this app. Oops, we have an error, sorry. I think it is going to, yeah. We don't have to run that in each for loop. We have to put that after the for loop. Let's try to run it again, and now we shouldn't have an error. Okay, so here we go. Here we have our question. Here we have our alternatives. Let's try bird. It's jumping to the next one, and it should now have printed wrong. Correct. Now, favorite color, that should be blue. Right. And where was I born? I was born, I can't remember where I was born. I was born in Tokyo, and I'm going to go with Tennessee, and it should display wrong, which it does. So here you have your fully functional quiz app. If you want to extend it, just stick around 1 minute longer, and I'm going to show you what you can do. You can just drag in a view controller like that. Let's see. Then I would create a segue from this one to this one. I would name that segue show score, and then I would call that score right here. When we have gone through all our questions, I will call perform segue with identifier, and let's see, we called it show score, and the sender is going to be self. So now it's going to jump over to the next one if it is done with all questions, and you can put even an extension, even one more extension on it by counting the number of points. So we can create a variable that says points is equal to 0. Then we can do, every time he answers right, we can say score. Well, what did we call it? Points plus equals 1. And then when we get to the second view controller right here, you could just drag in a label, and you could just display the number of points in that label. We're not going to do that right now, but that's an easy extension to make. You just then display points in the next view controller, and as you will see, it will now automatically jump over to the next view controller when the user has gone through all the questions. So I'll just show you that before I go through all the code one more time and explain what everything meant. So we're going to have dog, we're going to have favorite color blue, and then I was born in Tokyo. Then it jumps over to the next screen, and here you can just display this variable called points. Awesome. So now I'm just going to go through the code one more time. First off, let's start here. First off, we created one label that's going to display the question. Then we created 3 buttons, each with one tag, this tag 1, tag 2, tag 3. And then we created an array that keeps the questions. Then we created an array that keeps the array with answer alternatives to each question. So these are the alternatives to this question. These are the alternatives to this question, and so forth. Then we created some variables here, not that important. We also imported a label. We then connected each button to one shared function. And let's see, we created then the function that sets up our interface each time we set the label to be equal to the question. We then generated a place for the right answer by generating a number between 1 and 3. And then we place that right question at the destined place. So let's see, we got 2 here. Then we check if it equals the right place, I equals the right place. If it does, we place it at I, which means 2, if this one gave 2. Else we're just going to jump on to place 2 in the array, place 1 in the array, and then the next time we're going to jump to place 2 in the array and display those questions. Then when we have set up everything, we say current question plus equals 1 to jump on to the next question. Then when we click the button, let's say the user clicks this button, then it checks if the tag of this button equals the placement, which we got here, placement of the right answer. If it does, it will print right. If it doesn't, it will print wrong. And it will only repeat if the current question is not equal to the count of this array. Because if we extend beyond this count, we are going to get an error. So that's basically it. That's it for the quiz app. If you have any questions whatsoever, write them in the comments and I will gladly help. Once again, thank you for watching and make sure that you click the subscribe button to stay tuned for future videos. Thank you for watching.